What's up guys, Americana back here with another video. Today, October 6th was the top. Where does that put us in the 2025 to 2026 bear market? The answer is early, but not too early. And if you understand where we are now, you'll know what to expect in the coming months. So let's get into the video. All right guys, this is the first video of the week that I'm recording. It's really important that you go watch my other videos this week to understand how we're navigating the bear market, how we're going about actually confirming that it's a bear market, a lot of different things, what to expect, kind of more near term, next coming weeks, month to month and a half, if this thing is to actually confirm as a bear market. So make sure you go watch those other videos. You'll notice a lot of my videos this week are going to be a kind of mixed, right? If the bear market is confirmed, where are we and what do we expect? What are some good things that are still in the market? And how are we going to go about playing these two things? I think that's important to know and make sure you have an understanding of the broader picture, not just picking up on one video and being like, oh, this is what he said and this is what it is. Because the situation is a bit nuanced right now. In some of those other videos too, I'll talk about kind of what to do depending on what position you're in. People who bought the bear market lows aren't really going to be hurting, I don't think, if we do get a bear market from here. But if you bought in March of 24 or January of 25, yeah, you can get pretty hurt by this stuff. Just make sure you watch the other videos this week so you know where I'm coming from. But in this one, we're just going to frame it up as if the bear market's confirmed and try to figure out, where are we at? What can we expect in the future? Things like that. So I found the simplest form of doing this is just kind of throwing up a long-term Bitcoin chart. RSI gives us a relatively decent gauge of where we're at when RSI is elevated, bullish times. When it's lower or suppressed, it's going to be bearish times. One thing that you do need to know about RSI is in bull markets, the midline like 50 or you can go as low as 40. That is always going to hold in bull markets. We've seen it right here. This, mid-range level, 40 RSI level ends up holding. And then even in here as well thus far. And then the other thing to know is that when you get underneath that 40 RSI, especially on a higher time frame like the weekly, that's typically where the worst of the bear market is going to come in. The worst of the worst of the worst. So me being generous, me being conservative, I went and mapped out when have we got around 40 RSI on the weekly time frame, okay, in a bear market. So this is post all-time high. To do this experiment, we would have to operate as if October 6th was the all-time high in Bitcoin. So where would we be at if 40 was not able to hold and this range wasn't able to reclaim next week? Well, you can point to about 3 places where we potentially could be at. Being, we've already had our initial sell-off and now the bear market has set in. As you can see, there is typically like a little bit of a relief bounce in RSI as well as price, all 3 of these times. That's kind of what I'm talking about. It's kind of the danger of what we have to balance out right now is if we do get a relief bounce, it doesn't necessarily mean we are instantly in the clear, and we need to be careful about that. The good news is we've already come off 20% from the all-time high, over 20%. In January of 22, we had come down 50%. I believe this is probably another 70% there. Jeez Louise. And another 70% there. But you also want to look at too the structure. Initial sell-off. What do you get next? That chop kind of relief rally that we mentioned. Chop and relief rally. Chop and kind of relief rally. And the next phase after that is the capitulation. Honestly, if we are in bear market already, it's really not that bad from a timing perspective, from a drawdown perspective. If most of these bear markets went, I suppose I could show it a little bit better. If most of these bear markets went 70 to 80% down, on here, 85, I think this one's like 82 or something like that, 83, 77, I think it was, 77. So kind of declining over time, right? If we look at this cycle, just spitballing, we'll go like a 75%. So pull back down to 32,000. Obviously, it's not going to be fun. It's going to be very detrimental, especially to your altcoin bags. We're not talking about any dynamics going on in the market right now, which could point to other things. So like I said, make sure you check out my other videos this week so you get a full kind of comprehension of where we could be at and why this situation is a bit nuanced right now. So in addition to already being 20% into a 70 to 80% drawdown, right, we're also a kind of a complete phase into this. If we're calling phase one the initial sell-off, into chop kind of situation, chop situation, just before a capitulation, the kind of 3 phases of a bear market. Well, we've already completed the initial sell-off, right? Now is for the kind of chop situation. What a lot of people don't know is while it does suck to kind of sit through, it's typically often marked by kind of still a lot of hope in the market. And when the capitulation comes in, that's when everybody's like, oh, this was a mistake and I'm selling everything and all this stuff. That's when all hope leaves. But we are already 40, 42, 45 days into what has typically been 365-day bear market, somewhere around there, 400 days there. Do it on here, about 365 there, and about 365 here. So if we're operating from the peak, we know that kind of happened in October. So 365 days from there would be, October of 26. So let's see, it's almost December. So 10 months out, 10 months out from finding a bear market bottom, 20% into finding a bear market bottom already, if it is a bear market. So for those of you who, are positioned at the end of the day relatively poorly, or in poor projects or in poor coins, yes, go watch my other videos, because you probably need to make some moves given the current market situation, especially if we don't get a reclaim. You at least need to have an idea of what's going on, because holding through a bear for you is going to be extremely detrimental. My average Bitcoin price is like 22, 23, 24,000, something like that. So if we pull back to 32,000, I'm still up 50%. I'm not particularly worried about that. Obviously, in this case, I have the faith that crypto is going to continue on. Bitcoin especially is going to continue on. And having a bull market where we pull this, or bear market where we pull this deep back in underneath all-time highs and things like that, will probably be a cause for worry for some. But we will cross that bridge when we get there. We can simply play the game and trade the market that we're given. I'm sure, just like in here, or just like in here, just like all throughout here, when we do eventually get down there, there's going to be signs of a potential bottom coming in, and we can lean on that just as we have always done on the macro. So I think we can kind of wrap up this video here. We'll keep it relatively short just to kind of summarize. Again, really make sure you check out my other videos this week to kind of have a bigger understanding or a better understanding of the bigger picture that we're talking about. Like I said, it is a bit of a nuanced situation currently. Losing $98,000 has been my trigger for a bear market. I'm going to continue to stand by that. I also do have a small grace period, especially when we still have the dynamics that we want to see in Bitcoin dominance and the DXY and things like that, to actually go for a reclaim or something like that, if that is in the cards. At the end of the day, I don't know if it's a bull market or a bear market anymore. I don't. And I think anybody who says that they do with 100% confidence, you should kind of speculate as to what their motives or their reasoning is. We are simply only able to trade the market that's been given to us. We did a lot of good things this cycle. We called the top and Bitcoin dominance over here. We rotated it into it. We rotated some Bitcoin into Ethereum. We were screaming to buy Ethereum here. This is when Ethereum went on to hit its all-time high. We called the top in DXY. It still looks like it could be topping. So we did a lot of good when it came to dynamics, but if price doesn't agree with us, it doesn't agree with us, and we can't change that. We can simply operate and work on what price is actually reflecting and telling us. So I'm recording this on Sunday. It's still possible that we even reclaim this week. It's still possible that we reclaim early next week and we bounce off this 40 RSI, which has historically been an area that we bounce off of in bull markets, or area that we hold in bull markets, especially this cycle bouncing off this area. So it's a bit nuanced right now, but if we are in a bear market, right, we have some pretty good idea of where we could be a long road ahead, but really not too bad, honestly. Altcoins will likely get decimated if that's the case, and there is some things you need to do. So check out my other videos and see how you probably should be positioning. 10-15% of the way through a bear market with just chop and capitulation left, already down 20% from the highs, wouldn't be the worst thing if you've been positioned since the 23 lows. But anyways, we'll wrap it up there. I know you guys are super worried out there. I know everybody is gonna have a lot of questions and things like that, so I will try to do my best to get those answered. You can go ahead and drop them in the comments. If you're in the free Discord, you can go ahead and drop in the free Discord. I don't know when this video is going to come out, but like I said, I have a lot of other videos this week that it would probably benefit you guys to watch early on or as soon as possible, and maybe not have to wait till Friday till they come out. If you do want to do that, okay, just go to the link in my bio. There's a free Discord. If you go in the free market updates channel, I always post all of the YouTube videos at the beginning of the week unlisted. So you can go in there and actually view those beforehand before they actually drop and things like that. If you think that'll help, make sure you go check that out. If you got questions, let me know. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.